25th of July. Okay. Hey, welcome everyone. I'm Lisa Natoli. Welcome to Friday morning Course in Miracles. And I'm very excited today that we have Kelly Russell teaching, and she's here to rock her joy, and that's what she does best. I love you so much, Kelly. And she's going to be teaching this morning that your past does not dictate your life unless you let it. And Kelly has a little bit of a potty mouth, everyone. So if you're offended, just don't even watch, or put some headphones on if you're home. But she says, let that shit go. So that's really what the teaching of A Course in Miracles is all about, is that we can recognize where we think we are and make a decision to change the picture of what we want, who we think we are, and we begin to see the world through that point of viewing. So I'm here just to give a little introduction about A Course in Miracles before we begin and before we do meet and greet and some announcements. And we have Cafe Gratitude this morning. Who's doing? Oh, George is doing it. We'll do that in a moment. We have a new guest here this morning, George, and we sometimes like to pass the Cafe Gratitude book to anybody to see if they'll actually say yes and stand up here, because this is really what the intention of this group was always to be, is that it would be a place of community and it would be a place of activation. So often people in spiritual paths and on transformation, oh my God, Monica Dubé's here. Awesome. Yay. Oftentimes in spiritual groups, there's just this thing of like listening and talking about the ideas, and nothing happens in that space. And so my experience has been, and I know that everyone else who comes here is your experience, is that it's not until you begin to live these principles, you begin to practice them, you begin to embody them, and you begin to identify with your true self, which is your Christ self. And you accept all the gifts that have been given to you, joy, peace, love, and you begin to give these gifts. Because A Course in Miracles tells us is that you can't see these gifts until you give them. We have them already. They're given to you in your inheritance. And Jesus, 2,000 years ago, was a man who demonstrated these principles, that he knew his self as one with God, and he just kept on giving the truth. And the truth just keeps on being given. Like when you start giving peace, you carry peace to others, you rock your joy, you just say, okay, I have love, I have kindness, I am kindness, I am all these things. And you start to move out of your self-limitations as a separate body, because we build a wall around ourselves. We don't dare to give. And so A Course in Miracles, to me, is a way to see what you've been doing as a human and now make a decision to live in a new way. You know, I've been reading the psychotherapy handbook, and I love it because Kelly is a licensed, trained psychotherapist. And so I love that she brings her professional training as a therapist into her work with A Course in Miracles. And it says that we're all God's therapists. We're all God's healers. We're all God's teachers. And it says that we have a way, and it's by our decision only, to help another. I love it. It says to persuade others to change their twisted way of looking at the world and their twisted way of looking at themselves. You have that ability. And so that's awesome, right? you just change the picture of what you think you are. And so I'm very happy for this group. And it's so fun to see so many people come back. Welcome, Bonnie. Always nice to see you. And new people. I know, have I met you before? I never forget a face, but I do forget names. What's your name? Diane. Welcome. So the announcements is that the Transformation Room, Robert Perry from the Circle of Atonement is currently the presenter in there, and he's teaching about Christ's vision. Who's in the Transformation Room in here? And it's just such a great community, and it's changed over the last couple months, and so there's a new presenter every single month. And this month is Robert Perry, and next month is Cindy Laura Renard. And I've already done my interview with her, and she's amazing. So she's next month. The card opens for the Transformation Room on July 26th. Is that correct? 25th, and it's open for 1 week. And it's really an incredible community, and it's people who are just wanting to move beyond talking about A Course in Miracles to actually embodying these principles. So check that out. Everything's at the Teachers of God Foundation website, teachersofgod.org. There's the 40-day free program. There's Living in Purpose Mastery. There's ACIM 365 for anyone who wants to complete the workbook lessons and have me give a 10-minute audio every day. And the blogs, and there's just so much available. And a final announcement is Los Angeles 2020. And there's our yearly Course in Miracles conference, and we have 7 tickets left. So we bought tickets at the lowest price, $479. So if anyone wants to go and get that price, it includes all the workshops, all the meals, and the prices go up. They go up to like $699, I think, by the end. So if you want to go, and it's just really an incredible experience to be in a space with so many dedicated course individuals. And now I'm going to introduce everyone to meet and greet. This is a moment we greet each other in love and joy. I love you. I've been thinking about it, actually.
Yeah, right? Yeah, my daughter had it all there, you know, like.
Jody gave you.
Yeah. I know, I work every other Friday. Namaste, George.
Hey, you're on that side of the room.
This is George.
George? Hi, George. How you doing, buddy? Nice to meet you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Aren't you? Yeah, same hair, dude. Good. What's your name? You guys ride up together? Oh, cool.
Hi, George. Nice to meet you.
Namaste, Bill. How are you?
Looking forward to you doing this every gratitude reading. No. Oh, no. You'll do Yeah, right.
Monica's here.
I'm so glad you're here.
Me too.
Thank you. How are we doing?
Good. Nice to see you.
Oh, right. Thank you. Yeah.
I
did pure bar in Newport. Like isometric. That was cool. Different. Yeah. Right? Everyone does it. You don't know if you're doing it. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. That's
It's cool.
right.
Okay, welcome back. So one of the things that we do here every week is called Cafe Gratitude. It's a book that Bill and I picked up at a restaurant in California called Cafe Gratitude, which we love. And they have an attitude of gratitude in that place. So they train their workers, all their staff, all the waiters and waitresses to really embody gratitude. And they have a part of their shift when they come into work is you get paid for this. They pay them to come in at a certain time, and before your shift occurs to go serve the people coming in the restaurant, you have to meet with another staff member who's been trained, and you basically dump whatever you're holding on to so you don't carry it into your shift. And I just love that. And you get paid for that. They have that as part of your shift. I think it's something like 20 minutes. So if you think about it, that's awesome, right? Imagine if you did that before you started doing anything in life, that you said, okay, I'm not going to go serve and this is what today's topic is going to be about, like letting your past go. But normally we get to work or we get to wherever we're going, and we haven't taken that moment to connect, to really say, what am I carrying here for grievances, upsets, whatever baggage I'm carrying, and making a conscious decision to not carry it any further. So we have this book, and it's called Cafe Gratitude, and it always has 2 things to think about. And I'm very excited that we have George here. And for those of you who are local here, we all love Laura Powers here, and she's been rocking her joy and her light for as long as I've known her. And this is Laura's boyfriend, and they've known each other since high school. They're like a When Harry Met Sally type story. And I'm just so happy for you, Laura, and so good to meet you, George. So come on up and welcome George.
Thank you, Lisa. This is a gypsy saying, we are all wanderers on this earth. Our hearts are full of wonder, and our souls are deep with dreams. What discovery are you celebrating?
Hold on. I didn't explain Cafe Gratitude. So I would love for you to share with us, if you feel willing, of what that is for you.
Boy, put me on the spot here.
I know. But I do. And I think there's a second one there. Oh, that was 2.
Yep.
So that's just the quote, and that's the question. If you want to share anything from your life or from...
Well, just recently, Laura and I have reconnected, so I am very happy and celebrating our reconnecting. That's a new discovery for us, and it's amazing. She's amazing, and I'm glad that she invited me up here. And it's good to meet you all, and I'm looking forward. I've taken the 40-day course, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you. I'm not very wordy, so that's it.
Perfect. Thank you.
He loves to put people on the spot.
I know. Well, but that was so good, because you see what happens when you take a minute? When we don't often take a minute to just, Nancy Fitzgerald, you're always sharing that with me. I'm putting you on the spot now. But it's like some of us have to really take more time than others in order to really connect. And then the sharing comes. But in life, we don't give ourselves that. We feel like I got to fill the space with words. I have to be brilliant. I have to just get off the stage quick. But that was so perfect, because you took the challenge of standing here, and then it's just that total expression of joy for the discovery of what you're celebrating. So thank you. And now it's time to invite the awesome Kelly Russell to the stage. She is a psychotherapist. She has a website called rockyourjoy.com. And she's really been moving into a new space now for several years. She's connected with A Course in Miracles and the principles of A Course in Miracles. And she's just totally devoted to service. As long as I've known you, Kelly, you're rocking your joy. And you are just always bringing it in such a compassionate way. And her topic today is, your past does not dictate your future unless it does. Let that shit go. Her talk will focus on the choices we have in perceiving our past and how what we choose to see affects the future we are experiencing as our present. So welcome, Kelly Russell.
Thank you. I love you so much. I love you. Can you hear me? Hi, everybody. I stand in the presence. So I always like to start by saying the prayer from page 28 of the Blue Book of A Course in Miracles. And so if you know it, feel free to say it along with me. And if not, you can I'll say it for you. But it's my way of letting the Holy Spirit be in charge of this talk. And that's the way that it was, that's what it was given in the Course in Miracles for. That was the purpose. I am here only to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent Him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because He who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me, and I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. And in finding this topic today, usually when Bill Free and I talk about a time that I'm going to talk, I go right to my calendar and I put it in, and and then it's not like I plan way far ahead of time, but I do ask Spirit, what do you want me to say? And what am I supposed to talk about? Or sometimes I don't do that. And then I have a whole agenda of my own, from my own mind lined up. And then someone throws a wrench into that, and I end up talking about what Spirit wants me to talk about anyway. And but this time it was kind of accelerated because I had the inspiration to call Bill the other day. So he's been on the Camino, haven't seen him or Lisa. Welcome back, by the way. We missed you guys. And I had the inspiration to call him to ask his help with a project that I'm going to be doing for the presenter series, actually. And at the very end of the phone call, it was an afterthought. I said, oh, I'll see you Friday. Are you going to be there Friday? And he said, yeah, you're teaching. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, you're teaching Friday. And I'm like, what? I have that in my calendar. I didn't know whatever. Thanks, Spirit, for having me call Bill in the first place and for actually just giving me that little inspiration to say that. Because if I wouldn't have, I would have rolled in my customary 10 to 15 minutes late and probably would have had some phone calls and so forth, and it would have been a different story, right? So just the guidance. Love the guidance. The guidance is happening all the time. And so there was the guidance of, after I found out I was teaching today, of going to Spirit and just saying, what do you want me to teach on? And I usually pick up my Course in Miracles book and kind of thumb through it and just see what pulls me in. And I kept opening to different things, and they were different passages and they were different lessons. But when I kept looking at them, I kept realizing that they all had the word past in them. And so I'm like, okay, so I guess that's what I'm supposed to be teaching about. And I love thinking about how much our past has to do, in our minds, has to do with what's going on in our lives. We really kind of live by that. And yet that is the Course in Miracles. I mean, this book right here, the title of this book, A Course in Miracles, the subtitle should just be, let that shit go, right? Because that's really, as Lisa said, that's really what it is all about. It's about, in so many ways. So first of all, the Course in Miracles teaches It's that whole mind-blowing idea that we have a hard time getting our brains around. That whole idea that this world is an illusion, that this world is something we're making up in our minds, that it's not real, that we have created it in our minds. And so when the Course in Miracles says things like, the past is over, it can touch me not, it's over because, first of all, it was an illusion. So it was an illusion in the first place. It was a dream. So it's like a dream that we had at night, like last night while we were sleeping. And then we woke up. Where's the dream? The dream, number one, is in the past. And number two, it never happened. It's not real. So it's like remembering something that didn't happen, and it's in the past. So it's kind of like it's like a double illusion thing, right? And so as Lisa mentioned, I have a background, I'm a spiritual life coach, and I coach from the perspective of A Course in Miracles, and this certainly comes up in coaching, but my background is also in psychotherapy. And so psychotherapy, I mean, one of the things that they talk about when they talk about, well, what's the difference between coaching and psychotherapy, the first thing that everybody says, the first thing you read about is that psychotherapy has to do with the past, coaching has to do with the future and your goals, right? And psychotherapy has to do with the past in the sense that it's whatever we are making out of it. Like the past is over, it can touch me not. So it's not happening anymore. But we are keeping the past alive right now to create our present. If you think about it, and I think about it a lot because I have people in front of me every day who are trying to figure out why they feel how they feel. They're trying to figure out why they have trouble with something, why they're struggling with something, why they're trying to figure out the person that's in their lives. They're trying to figure out why they're unhappy with this person, or why they're in this relationship that's so conflicted, or why they don't have any money, or whatever it is. Anything that we can think of, we're not approaching it from present moment awareness. We're not coming to it from that place of wonder, like the cafe gratitude reading. We're not coming to it from a place of wonder. Like, I love what the Course says in Lesson 7. Lesson 7 is like a culmination of all the lessons that came before it. I see only the past. This idea is particularly difficult to believe at first. Yeah, right? Because we think we're living. We think everything that's happening right now is just happening. We think that this is reality. And that the world is just doing what it's doing. People are doing what they're doing. People are saying what they're saying. I'm feeling what I'm feeling. And it's all because this is reality. People are always saying this is reality. But it isn't. This is not reality. This is actually a review. It's like I talked about with the dream of remembering something that actually never happened, which is kind of trippy. So what A Course in Miracles says is, first of all, our experience that we're having here is an illusion. We know that it says that. But it also says that even the illusion itself, this dream that we have been having, that we separated from God, and that we created a world of separation, a world of form, a world of bodies, a world of duality, where it's not just love, it's love and fear, and every separation that comes from that, that it happened, even though it didn't really happen. It appeared to happen in a nanosecond, and then it was over. It was done. The Holy Spirit bridged the gap between our perception of fear and our reality of love, and we were back home with God in a nanosecond, and it all went away. But we are watching the movie. We are the ones that are keeping it alive. We are the ones that are thinking that it's real. And the only reason it appears to be real is because we don't want it not to be. And we don't want it not to be because of that part of our split mind called the ego or the conditioned self that wants to be right. It wants to be separate from God. It wants to be God. And so as long as we are staying on that part of our mind, we are going to believe that we're in this world. We're going to believe we're in a body. We're going to believe that we're separate. We're going to believe that we have conflict. We're going to believe that we have problems. And it's all because we're believing in something in the past that didn't really ever even happen. So when you think of that, it's kind of funny, really, right? Okay, so then the next line, I see only the past is the rationale for all of the preceding ones. It's the reason why, and then he starts to review all the previous lessons, right? It's the reason why nothing you see means anything. It's the reason why you've given everything you see all the meaning it has for you. It's the reason why you do not understand anything that you see. It's the reason why your thoughts do not mean anything and are like the things you see. It's the reason why you are never upset for the reason you think. And it's the reason why you are upset because you see something that is not there. So all of these preceding ideas, these were all lessons in the workbook, lessons 1 through 6, and they're all culminating in the idea that all of that stuff is true because I see only the past. And so when I'm doing therapy with somebody, we're talking about what's going on in their life. And my big thing that I hit on with people in therapy is that you're not responding to any, people say, well, somebody said something and she made me feel like this. He made me feel like that. She made me angry. He made me upset. He hurt my feelings, whatever it is. And it isn't that. It's that we're making meaning out of everything that happens, everything that appears to occur, everything that somebody appears to say or do. We're running it through this computer in our minds that says, ooh, it looks like this, and it's a pattern like that, and it's similar to this, and it's that color, and it's that flavor, and it's got that tone. And we pull all of that stuff out of the past. And so we go, it's this. This is what it means. And this all happens in less than a nanosecond. This all happens so quickly that I have, one of the things I'm challenged with is teaching people that your emotions are responding to your thoughts. And they're like, no, they're not. They're responding to what's happening. And I'm like, no, they're not. Yes, they are. No, they're not. Because the thought happens so quickly that we're literally unconscious to it. So we think somebody says, you're a bitch. And our central nervous system gets completely inflamed and we attack back, right? What we don't see there, and if anybody asks, it's because he called me that name, right? What we don't see is that word has all kinds of meaning attached to it. And so does the tone of voice it was said in. And so does the facial expression that it was said with. Especially the tone of voice and the facial expression, right? Because there's ways where you can be like, oh, me and my bitches, we're going to the beach today, and it's all good and it's all fun, right? And it becomes a completely different word, right? Completely different meaning. And so it's what we are attaching to it. It's the meaning that we're making of it. And the meaning we're making of everything always comes out of the past. So then we have to start looking, and that's what I want to know from people is, okay, so what's the underlying belief here? What are the thoughts attached to whatever it is that you got going on? What's the underlying belief? And I want to know where that came from. And where we usually go, because it's therapy and because it's the world, we always go to where? Childhood. Exactly, the past. And the past often is childhood. And that's where people, that's as far back as people often go. And I get it, because my clients are not particularly Course in Miracles students, so I get it that that's the logical place to go. And yet where that leads to is a projection of, okay, well, now the reason I have this problem, I understand. It's not my fault. And I feel so good about that. And I feel so much more innocent. And I feel so released by that it's not my fault, because it's my parents' fault. So I can feel good about that. Right? And so I can just leave it there. Thanks, Kelly. See you next week. It's my parents' fault. We're good. And I'm like, no, it's not. And so I'm ethically bound not to put my spiritual beliefs on other people. As a therapist, you can't. It's illegal. Can't do that. Not a preacher. You're not, I'm not a minister when I'm in there. I'm not a spiritual teacher when I'm in there. And yet, I also am not just going to be sitting there purporting something that I know is wrong and I know is not the truth. So the first thing that I say to people is, okay, it's going to look like it's your parents, right? But we're not stopping there. We are not here to pick apart your childhood, and we are not here to blame your parents. We are not here to make other people responsible. Like I call them out on if they're talking about their kid, or they're talking about their spouse, or they're talking about somebody in their life. We will talk about that like, okay, but really it's not the person. It's what they're saying and the meaning you're making of it, and the pinging of an underlying belief you have about yourself. And we literally have like a list of underlying beliefs. Like in case people are having trouble figuring out what their underlying belief is, I got a piece of paper I can hand them that says negative cognitions. I'm not good enough. The first one. So usually they'll be like, right here. They look at the first one. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. The world isn't safe. I'm a bad person. I don't deserve it. Right? And on and on. I mean, there's like a whole page full of them. And it's helpful for people to be able to see that is the program that is running underneath their whole life. And where that came from, so the first place we go, where it came from, I want to know, do you have any idea where that came from? Like, can you think of why you might feel like that? And that's when we start to open the ideas about childhood. And I was told I wasn't good enough. Sometimes it's really straight up. I was told I wasn't good enough. I was told I wasn't lovable. I was told I was bad, whatever it is. And so I say, okay, so I want to just stop there for a second so that we are not blaming parents. We are not blaming teachers or bullies or whomever it was. They are the messengers. Okay, that's all they are. They are the messengers. And where they get the message from, because we all have the same mind. We are all one mind joined. And that mind is split. Not in reality. Because remember, this is just the movie we're watching. This is just the dream that we had, that we woke up from, and it was only a dream, and it never really happened anyway. And so it's a dream of something that never happened. But that's what our quote unquote reality here is. So the dream is that it was my parent. Or the dream is it was a teacher that was, abusive to me, or a priest, or a bully, or like whatever it is. But they're only the messenger that is coming from our own mind, our own split mind that is operating from a place of fear. It's a place of fear. Remember, the Course in Miracles tells us there are always only two places from which to come. There are only two emotions. There are only two perceptions. One is love and one is fear. And if you're coming from a perception of love all the time, you're probably not here. So, but that's what we're working towards, right? That's what we're doing as Course in Miracles students. That's what we're doing in these teachings. That's what we're doing in our practices, in our doing the workbook, in our listening to programs like Lisa's 40-day program and Living in Purpose and the Presenter Series and all the stuff with our study groups. Everything that we do to immerse ourselves in this is to return to love, to borrow a phrase from our Marianne Williamson presidential candidate. Return to love, which is, she came to Elliott. Isn't that cool? Yeah. So for us to be able to know that it's our projection, it's because we're coming from a place of fear that's created by the fact that we believe that we separated from God. That is what the cause is of all of our problems. As soon as we can completely heal that we don't believe any longer that we ever separated from God and that it ever happened, we don't believe in any cell of our being, in any little tiny, dark, unlit corner of our mind that we separated from God. As soon as we get to that place, we will be enlightened immediately. We might hang around here a little longer to maybe be helpful if that's what our guidance is to do. But we will no longer be under the influence of anything except for love. So that's where we're all going. So when we trace back our behavior to a belief, we trace back our emotions and our reactions to an underlying belief, and then we trace that back to a message that we got from someone else. We have to go back further. We have to go back like however many millennia it is, which I don't really know, but we have to go back to the original separation, which we believe happened. It never happened. But it's kind of like I tell my clients, like one of the things that happens, especially when I'm doing couples counseling with people, is I will say, the truth of what you're talking about when you're both on opposite sides of something, the truth is somewhere in the middle. I don't know what it is. And I don't know what it is because you don't know what it is. So you can't tell me. You both are going to tell me what you think the truth is. But because it's different, truth is true and nothing else is true. So if you're telling me one truth and you're telling me another truth about the same damn situation, then none of us know what the truth is, right? So what I say is, you're going to tell me your perception. And you're going to tell me your perception. And we are going to work with perceptions. So what you have to understand about the other person is you're just listening to their perception of the truth. So you're not arguing about what the truth is and what really happened because you don't even freaking know. You're just going on your perceptions, right? It's like if you're watching a baseball game and you're right behind home plate versus up in the nosebleed seats way to the left side of the field, you might see a different game. Right, so we have to return to my point, we have to go back further than our parents. Well, that'd be great if somebody is sitting in front of me and they're a Course in Miracles student, and this is one of the reasons why coaching is a whole different experience, is because I coach people who are coming from this place, who are Course in Miracles students or who are miracle curious, as I call it, and able to be open to those ideas. Because it's easier for them to get to that place. Since I can't preach that stuff and I can't really teach that stuff to people who aren't Course in Miracles students, I have to use things like choosing love or choosing fear. I have to use things like, okay, I get it that you've traced it back to your parents, but you don't know where it came from for them. Everybody is innocent. Everybody's responding to their own beliefs. And if your parents were abusive to you, that doesn't happen in a vacuum. That happened because they got some kind of a message that they were guilty, and they're projecting it onto you. And the person who, yes?
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
Kind of unrelated. I'm just curious why you can't teach it. Is that just because, or preach it, or is that only because of the insurance companies? Like, why is it illegal?
Because if you're a licensed psychotherapist, you have ethical guidelines that you have to adhere to. And one of those ethical guidelines is that you have to work with the person's spirituality themselves. Whatever they bring to the table for spirituality, you can work with them on that and help them to, use that to help themselves. But it's ethically forbidden for you to try and influence the spiritual beliefs of a client. It's one of the reasons why I chose to get into coaching, is so that I could actually do exactly that. But it's a great question. Yeah. And so going back to my point there of, instead of leaving it with, this came from my parents and it's their fault, and if they wouldn't have done this or that, I wouldn't be this way. It's to look at, first of all, they got to be this way, however, whatever messages they got. And they were responding to their own underlying beliefs about themselves. And if you have an underlying belief about yourself that you're not good enough or you're unlovable, you are going to behave like that in the world. And that behavior will probably be some form of abusive to yourself as well as to other people. And so just to help people to understand that it goes back way further and further than you can even know. And what I can hold for them, because all minds are joined, what I can hold for them is, I know exactly how far back it goes. I mean, I don't know the years exactly, because that's not my thing, but I know it goes back to the initial separation. That's where it always goes to. And so what I say to people is, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your parents did. It doesn't matter where it came from. What matters is, how are we going to heal it right now? That is the only thing that matters. If we're going to get all hung up on wasting our time and energy on where it all came from and what the etiology of it was and how it should have happened differently, first of all, how do we know what should have happened differently? How do we know that? That is the height of egoic arrogance, is to believe that you know in any moment how anything should have gone and should have transpired and what should have happened and what somebody should have done or should have said. It's shoulding all over the world, right? And instead, being able to look at everything as if I see only the past. That is giving everything the meaning that it has for me now. So what happens if I acknowledge that? What happens if I say, my whole vision of this thing is colored by the fact that I'm only seeing the past? That's giving it all the meaning that it has for me. I don't really know what's going on. So I love what he says in lesson 7. Moving on. Old ideas about time are very hard to change because everything you believe is rooted in time and depends on your not learning these new ideas about it. Yet that is precisely why you need new ideas about time. And he talks about this first idea is not really so strange as it sounds at first. Look at a cup, for example. Do you see the cup? Or are you merely reviewing your past experiences of picking up a cup, being thirsty, drinking from a cup, feeling the rim of a cup against your lips, having breakfast, and so on? Are not your aesthetic reactions to the cup too based on past experiences? How else would you know whether or not this kind of cup will break if you drop it? What do you know about this cup except what you learned in the past? You would have no idea what this cup is except for the past. So do you then really see it? And if you think about somebody who's never seen a cup before, like what if there is, exactly, what if there's a baby? What if there are now, as you have experience with your grandchildren, right? And children, obviously, and grandchildren. What if there's a baby? So babies are such great teachers for us, babies and children, because they don't yet have, first of all, they don't know what anything is. And a lot of times they know that they don't know, which is why they're always asking a million questions of the adults, right? They know that they're the ones who know. And they haven't yet developed that egoic arrogance of believing that they know what everything is and what everything is for. And then taking it a step further and thinking that they should know what things are and what things mean that they don't even know, but we pretend. Like we pretend we know what stuff is and what stuff is for. I mean, somebody uses a word we don't know. We don't go, I'm sorry, wait, I got to stop you. What does that word mean? We're just like, uh-huh. We're like, meanwhile, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what that word is. But I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to feel ignorant, or somebody will make a reference to somebody or make a reference to something. Like, I don't watch TV. I don't follow politics, really. I mean, when it comes down to it, I will read people's platforms enough to know, like, who I'm for, but I don't know, like, all the issues and all that. I don't care. I mean, I'm sorry to say that. That probably sounds kind of terrible, but I care enough to know that it's all an illusion and that I know what is going to heal it. And what is going to heal it is not rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. What's going to heal it is me keeping my eye on the light of truth and seeing all my brothers as innocent. And what's going to help everything is me not looking at the past as dictating the future. Because this is what I hear all the time. I hear this in my practice all the time, is people will talk about, well, if I don't do this and I don't do that and I don't say this and I don't tell him how he's wrong and I don't teach him how he should be parenting and I don't tell her, what she should be doing and I don't make her get a different job and I don't instill in her, blah, 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 then blah, 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 blah is going to happen. It's like the if-then equation that we were always taught in school, right? If this, then that. If this happened before, that is going to happen again. What is it? Those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. I would say those who keep history alive in their minds all the time and ruminate about it and are pissed off about it and are nurturing feelings of victimhood about it are destined to repeat it. Destined to repeat it in this life and lifetime after lifetime after lifetime in this fake illusory dream world until we get it. Until we get it that, no, actually, that keeping the past alive is not the way to avoid pain. Letting the past go is the way to avoid pain. So if this baby has never seen a cup before, right? And the baby's like there and it's, and you bring out this cup, maybe it's like a sippy cup, and the baby's just all like with the big eyes and everything. And how babies like hold a cup like this and their little hands are like this big and the cup is like this giant. And they don't know about the cup. They don't know. They don't have any preconceived notions. They haven't learned anything about it. They don't have any expectations. They're just kind of in this place of wonder, like the Cafe Gratitude quote talked about. It's just in this place of wonder. This place of, I don't really know. The Buddhists call that beginner's mind, right? Letting go of everything that we think we know. So what would that be like if we let go of our past? Like I see people who are afraid to be in relationship. They're afraid to not be in control. They're afraid to say how they feel. They're afraid. They're just afraid. But why they're afraid is all because of concepts that they have from the past. Right? Oh, I don't want to get my heart broken. I don't want to be in a relationship because I don't want to get my heart broken, or I don't want to be rejected, or I don't want to be abandoned. But all of that may have happened in the past, in this world that's not really real, in this dream. The only thing that makes it possible that it's going to happen in the future is that you believe it does, right? That happened to me before, so it's probably going to happen again. So that I go into a relationship, and of course there's the beginning of the relationship where everything's all crazy, happy, and you're so excited, and you've met the soulmate, or this new person that's come into your life is wonderful, and everything's fantastic, and it's all green lights and unicorns and rainbows and all of that. And then you start being afraid. Somehow the thought worms its way in, right? Because in the beginning, you're seeing the love and the light in the person. People call it romantic love, and they say it doesn't last, and they say it's there are studies actually that have been done on the human brain that say that a brain of a person that's in romantic love looks exactly the same as a brain of a person who's on heroin because of the chemicals that are released in the brain. But I like to look at it as before we know a person, right? Before we find out all the things about them that we don't like, we don't have any choice except seeing the light in them, because it's all we know, and we have the expectation that we want to have a love relationship, right? So for that period of time, we might be connecting with the Holy Spirit in them. And then something happens, they say something, they do something, something transpires, and we start to make judgments. Oh, okay, so that's what you're like. Okay. And then we go into the comparison that happens just automatically. That comparison happens in our mind, and we start going through all of the millions and millions and millions and bazillions of files that we have all stored from this lifetime and from other past lifetimes and from the whole joined mind, because all minds are joined. So how many cajillion files are in there? He's going to do this. She's going to do that. They're going to hurt me somehow. X minus Y equals Z, or whatever that math is. It has letters that I never really got. And we come up with the wrong conclusion that this thing could happen and it could hurt me. Well, now it's a thought. And the more that we think it, the more that chronic thoughts become beliefs. And it's going to ping something that happened way back in our childhood that we have an underlying unhealed belief about, that we can be hurt, that we are vulnerable, that we can be abandoned, that we can be rejected, that any of that can even happen. And now that's what we're holding in our minds. And now we have a new expectation. Just a matter of time. So we either send the person packing, you're not the one, because you could possibly hurt me. You could possibly abandon and reject me. So you're obviously not the one. So I'm just going to go on to the next one. And that's what the Course in Miracles tells us, is that we will just continue to replace, going from one serial adventure to the next. We basically just replace the face with somebody else, and then we start it all over again because we're not healing it. We're not healing it at the place that it needs to be healed from. So one of the modalities that I use that I have a lot of success with, I'm a trained trauma psychotherapist, and I use this very interesting modality called EMDR. And I won't go into it because it's kind of involved in the way that you talk about it. But the way that I think about EMDR, because one of my clients calls me the witch doctor, because she says, because she says that it's kind of like magic. It basically involves holding a negative belief in your mind that is tied to a specific memory that happened in this life that we think we're living, holding the emotions that you're feeling about it in your body, and having the therapist perform what's called bilateral stimulation, which is left, right sides of the body, whether it's eye movements, whether it's tapping, whatever it is. That is like the shortest nutshell version I could describe it as. And it serves to help the person. Somehow it helps them suspend their thinking so that the memory can be reprocessed, because it's stuck. It gets stuck in your brain, and it's tied around this negative concept, this negative belief, like I'm not good enough, or I'm not safe, or I'm not lovable, or whatever it is. And there's something about which nobody really even understands, not even the neurobiologists, not even the person who created the therapy in the first place 30 years ago, who discovered it. Nobody really understands why it works, but it does. But what I like to think, and just the place that I'm coming from, is that it's like in A Course in Miracles, where they say, take a pill. If you need to take a pill, you take a pill. That the patient is ministered to, seemingly ministered to by other people. And we would know that means, medical providers and doctors and specialists and all that stuff. Because if healing needs to come through those places that make it look like it's coming from the world, because that's the only way that we can take it in and believe it. So for someone, so the person believes, if I hold this memory in my mind and I think about the negative belief it's associated with, and I focus on the physical symptoms of my central nervous system and what they feel like, and I move my eyes back and forth like this, or you're tapping on me like this, that somehow that will be healed. If they believe that that's what's doing the healing, rock on. I don't care. Like, that's fine. I know that's not what's doing the healing. I know what's doing the healing is that they believe that that is doing the healing, and so it is healed. Because that's what the Course in Miracles tells us about all healing, is once the patient decides that he is healed, he's healed, right? And so they're looking to me, and I'm saying, this shit works, and I'll say, we don't really know why it works, but here's the protocol, and I'm trained in it, and here's what we do, and it works. I don't fool myself into thinking that it works because it is EMDR, or it works because it's this magical, wonderful treatment. People believe they've been healed by chemotherapy. People believe they've been healed by aspirin. They believe that they've been healed by leeches, or like dancing on coals, or having somebody do rattles and shake and bang on drums around them, or sleep in a hyperbaric chamber. Whatever it is, it's something that we believe is happening, that we're putting our thought energy in, and that in our belief in, and that's why it's happening. So that brings us back full circle to why we believe that the past dictates the future. We think the past dictates the future, and so it does, right? That's the only thing that is making the past dictate our future. Because on some level, we know this. If I know that my family, I recently had an intuitive reading done, and somebody told me that I have a family ancestral history of a belief that in scarcity and lack that goes beyond the story that I know. What the story that I know is that I was this close to being an oil princess. My grandfather could smell oil on my mother's side, and he smelled oil, and they moved down to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they got a big mansion, and they had servants, and they were rich. This is my mom being little. So I'm up there like in the atmosphere being like, yeah, I can't wait to get down there and be all rich and everything. And then, his negative beliefs about himself intervened, and whatever happened, and one thing led to another, and the Phillips brothers went this way, and the Skelly brothers went that way, and my grandfather went another way. So I'm not an oil princess. But I am a princess, exactly. I didn't need the oil for it. And so, but what this intuitive told me is actually it goes back further than that. It goes back several generations that I'm reading the energy of. There's two thought forms. There's not enough, no, I'm sorry. I'm not worthy, and money falls through my fingers. And every person on that side of the family has had those problems. I will say that my mother probably started the buck stopping with her because she got into spirituality, she got into positive thinking, she got into the unity movement, she started realizing we create our own reality. And so I think I was a little bit, taught differently from a young age because of that. But we're carrying, literally, like in this fake DNA that we have, we're carrying these beliefs from the past energetically that are then playing out in our lives. So I was just like, well, I'm not believing that anymore. I'm done with it. So the intuitive person I worked with said, I'm doing a clearing for you. I'm clearing it because that's what she does. I'm clearing it. Now, it's not that she really is clearing it. It is that she believes she's clearing it, so I believe she's clearing it. And because I believe she's clearing it, and I believe I'm not carrying it anymore, I'm not carrying it anymore, right? So that's all the way that this ever happens. So if we can see that the past is only alive because I'm keeping it alive, and that when I make the decision to let go of the past and not let it continue to be my truth, it won't be. So the Course in Miracles gives us this amazing, because you knew this was coming because it's me standing here, so of course I'm going to talk about forgiveness. The Course in Miracles gives us this amazing tool to use to dispel the past. I do teach the forgiveness prayer that I learned from Gary Renard. You are spirit, pure, whole, and innocent. All is forgiven and released. What I say to my clients is kind of in the same way that we don't really know why EMDR works. You don't really have to know why this prayer works. It just does. Just use it. And I tell them to write it down. I text it to them. I have them put it in their notes feature on their phone. Memorize it. And when somebody disturbs your peace or pisses you off or does something that you think they shouldn't be doing, use the prayer. And people come back and say to me, I don't know what's up with that prayer, but it works. And then later, when things aren't working out for them and they're saying, life sucks again, I'm like, how's the prayer? Are you doing that? Oh no, I forgot about that. Nope. So when we can go into a place of forgiveness, so the Course in Miracles tells us that forgiveness is like a portal back to love, back to the present. Forgiveness dispels the past. So it says, I forgive you because I remember there is nothing to forgive. There's nothing to forgive because this world is illusory and we never left God. And the separation never happened. And so if the separation never happened, we never left God, this world is fake, then then you calling me a bitch is not what happened. It's just in my mind. And it's in my mind, and then I'm having the reaction to it that I'm having because of all the stuff that's in my mind that happened in my past and all the associations that are negative that I have with that. So the act of forgiveness, the process of forgiveness, I remember that I'm dreaming an illusion that the ego mind made up. I remind myself that I'm dreaming this illusion. So that's what I'm reacting to. I'm reacting to the past, which is only in the illusion. That's what I'm forgiving, is anything that I think that happened in the past. Anything, because if it happened, Right then, that was the past. What I just said, that was the past. When I just said the past, that's the past. What I just said then, and I said the past, that's the past. So everything that happens, except for what I am saying right this very second, and now second, is in the past, is in the past. So everything is in the past. So I'm forgiving everything that's in the past. I remember, I release everything to spirit. I ask to see this differently. I remember that I'm dreaming the illusion. I ask to see it differently, and I release it to spirit, and it is done. It's done. I don't have to pick it back up.
Someone is asking if you can say the whole prayer of forgiveness. Like Gary Renard's prayer of forgiveness.
Oh, the short version, which I really suggest. This prayer was given to Gary Renard by his spiritual teachers, and I really suggest that you memorize this because it's so short. What you have to understand is the longer process that I'm talking about right now is what it means in order for it to be even more effective. But even if you don't understand that, it's still effective. It is, you are spirit, pure, whole, and innocent. All is forgiven and released. Because in that short little prayer, that it's saying everything. It's saying you are spirit. You are pure, whole, and innocent. Well, if you're pure, whole, and innocent, then I can't hold you responsible for anything because you're pure, whole, and innocent. You're innocent. You're not guilty. If you're not guilty, what am I doing? How am I holding you responsible for anything? It doesn't make any sense. But see, the ego mind, that's the whole thing about the ego mind. First of all, it's insane and nothing makes any sense. And once you start actually working with the thoughts and getting them, like one thought leads to another thought and you're actually looking at it with truth, you see how insane it is. So you release it to spirit to be healed. Bye. It was great to meet you. Bye, Bonnie. Love you. Once you release it to spirit to be healed, then it's done. There's no more, unless you pick it back up, which we often do. Oh, here it is again. Oh, I'm just going to pick this back up and I'm just going to look at it again. And then here come the thoughts and here come the beliefs and here comes the crappy feeling. And so forgiveness is the key to letting that shit go. That is what forgiveness does, is it allows us to let go of the past that never happened and embrace the truth of who we are and who our brothers are, which is only love. Only love is real, right? That's who we are. That's the truth of us. And so if we want to be peaceful in the present and we want to be joyful in the present and we want to have a life that's fun and enjoyable and we want to rock our joy in the present, we have to let go of the past. One of the exercises that I do with my coaching clients is I have them literally write down every belief that they think that they are operating with. So, for an example, I'm anxious. I have an anxiety problem. I'm anxious. That's a belief. Then I ask them to write down, well, where did that come from? Well, my mother was anxious. Well, my mother was always expecting me to do everything. Well, my mother was always yelling at me when I didn't do what she wanted. Well, my mother expected me to be perfect. So all of these things, all of these reasons. And what we do in this exercise is we actually play it out with what might your mother actually have been really doing and really feeling from a perspective of love instead of a perspective of fear. Like, what if we reframed it that your mom was a single parent? She was scared. She thought she was going to completely this whole child rearing thing up. She felt like she was alone. She felt like she was abandoned. She felt like nobody loved her. And I will tell you that when we start doing this exercise and people are able to look at the story differently, the emotion that comes up from it, the compassion that comes up from it. So we understand as Course in Miracles students that all of it, including what happened with the mother and her whole story and all of that, it's still a story. And it still doesn't go back to the actual truth of the belief in separation, but it intervenes with the judgment. It helps people open the door to maybe I'm wrong when I remember the past the way that I remember the past. You know, they talk about in police work and detective work, if somebody is telling the story over and over and over again, and it is exactly the same way every single time, especially if it happened a long time ago, they're probably lying. Because memory's not reliable like that. I see it happen to me all the time. I am absolutely positive something happened a certain way, and then when I'll go like find the proof of it, I'll be like, oh man, that totally didn't happen like that. Like, I'm a liar. I'm lying to myself about that. It's just because the ego mind is not a reliable reporter. It's not. But yet we believe it. We rely on the ego mind to tell us what is truth in the world, to tell us what's really going on, to tell us the truth about somebody else, to tell us the truth about ourselves, right? We rely on the ego mind, who is pulling from a past that never happened because it's an illusion, that was dreamt, and that is over anyway, that we're watching the movie to. Like, it's like we're sitting in the movie theater being all pissed off at the people on the screen who are telling a story about something fake that happened in a dream that never really happened. That's insanity, right? So, one second. So, just to reiterate, whenever our peace is disturbed, because if our peace is not disturbed, if we're in love, if we're in light, if we're having fun, if we feel free, if we're just having a big old blast and it's awesome, there's nothing to forgive in that. That is when we are aligned with our true selves. We're aligned with spirit. We're aligned with the love that is the truth of us, and that's great. And we have glimpses of that in the world. That's the closest that we get to. When we practice forgiveness, that is also the closest that we get to being able to be in our true selves, in our true mind, as being aligned and one with our brother. Because when we realize and when we acknowledge what I am holding you guilty and responsible for never occurred, the separation between us never occurred. That is the atonement principle, is the full awareness and understanding that the separation from God never happened. And so as we are able to do that, and forgiveness is the way that we get back to that, is every time something disturbs our peace in any way, whether it's a person, whether it is an entity, whether it is an administration, an institution, the IRS, the bank, whatever is our body, whatever is disturbing our peace, that we forgive it for the illusion it is. We forgive ourselves for dreaming the illusion. We turn it over to spirit. We remember that we see only the past. We let go of the past by practicing forgiveness. We realign with ourselves in the present moment, because in this present moment is where the love is, and that's where the truth is, and that's where the light is. Actually, Laura, we do need to remember those stories. Yeah. Laura, you had a question. Get a microphone.
I just wanted to say I learned that forgiveness thing from you. And for the person especially that was asking what the prayer was, it helps to do that prayer in the morning while you're brushing your teeth and you're looking in the mirror. Mm. Not just saying it to the person that's harmed you. Yeah. Because the person that has done nothing to me, it's me. Right. So usually I will say this all the time in the morning when I'm brushing my teeth. You are pure, you're a spirit, pure, whole, and innocent. All is released, all is forgiven. Mm-hmm. Before I even start my day, because it's me that thinks that something's happening, and I'm connected to that light. And so if that helps the person, and everything you were talking about, getting to, looking at whether it's your parents or whatever, that's what we do in step 4 in AA. We do the resentments. We do the turnarounds. Yeah. What's the lie I told myself? What's the truth I told myself? Byron Katie stuff does it too. What's the truth I told myself? How did it make me feel? And getting to that truth is really hard sometimes, because the ego wants to come in and go, well, your mother was crazy. Yes. And instead, if you've got the right sponsor, they'll say, nope, what's the truth? What's the truth? Well, of course my mother loved me. You know, the truth is no one can love me enough. And then the truth is even further, I think God doesn't love me. Right? And when we get to those truths, and then the fears that it sets off, and how would I feel if I trusted and relied on God?
Exactly.
Same thing.
Exactly.
AA, Course of Miracles, Byron Katie, it all comes together. But that forgiveness thing is amazing, and it works when you look in the mirror and talk about yourself that way.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you. Awesome, Kelly.
Linda, did you have a question or a comment?
I'll ask something. Well, I thought healing is a feeling, right? And so you don't exist. So like I can't do
No,
anything.
it's not that I don't exist.
Yeah.
You and I both exist, but we're one. Right?
Okay.
The dream is this world, in the world of form. It doesn't mean that you're not a spark of God and I'm not a spark of God. That's what the truth is that we're both exactly the same as God. So the forgiveness is acknowledging that.
So I don't have to
It's
worry
forgiving
about
the
you.
dream. You don't have to worry about me. Now, if I am, say, your child, and you've been tasked with being a mother, then what you're going to do is use your relationship with Spirit to ask for the guidance of how do I mother this child. But what we do instead usually is we think we're going to think it all out ourselves. We're going to make it all happen ourselves. So Holy Spirit understands that we believe that we're in this world. But he's saying, ask me. Jesus is saying, ask me for guidance. Ask me what to do because you don't know what to do. And if you do it yourself without asking me, I'm paraphrasing here, but he says you're going to fuck it all up. Right? And so being able to, you don't have to worry about me. No, you never have to worry about anybody. But ask for guidance about what to do in any given situation.
It's funny because my daughter was calling me a liar, like a liar. But, and then she's laughing, joking, like she wants to poke me, and I don't know what to say, the point is like she could be getting to this level, on a level that I don't understand,
What I would say is, sorry. Well, I'm sorry, I'm wearing a microphone. What I would say is that she's reflecting something that you believe deep within yourself, that you're a liar. And she's just reflecting it to you. That's all anybody's doing in this world when they behave a certain way or they say certain things, is that they're just speaking our own thoughts that we have about ourselves out loud. So I would say whether you say it out loud to her or whether you say it in your mind, maybe out loud to her, you don't say anything, you laugh it off. In your mind, you say, thank you for revealing something that I thought is true about myself, that I'm a liar. I forgive it. I forgive the idea that I think I'm a liar, and I remember there's nothing to forgive. And I remember I'm dreaming an illusion, and I release it to Spirit. I ask to see it differently. And I say to my daughter, you are Spirit, pure, whole, and innocent. All is forgiven and released.
Yeah, we're all liars, apparently.
We're all liars in that we are believing a lie that the ego mind has told us, that we are different from being God expressing and the love of God and the light of the world. That's the only lie, is that we're telling ourselves we're not the light of the world when we are. So I think we're actually at that time. So I just want to invite everybody up to do the closing prayer. Thank you, everybody, for being here with me today. Thank you, live streamers. I love you. Thank you for everybody in this room who's just so awesome. If we could form a circle. We got kind of a chorus line going. So I just want to remind everybody that there is a love box in the back of the room there, the one that says thank you on it, the gratitude love box, and that there is a button on somewhere on where you're watching on the live stream to be able to make a donation. That I don't know if you know how much the donations to the Teachers of God Foundation are helpful to us, that they help us to pay the rent, to have this beautiful space, to pay the teachers that we have in the presenter series, to be able to offer programs, to be able to just do the work that we do in the world. And we are so grateful for your generous donations. We really appreciate it. And we bless you. And so we'll say that the prayer of the tithes and offerings. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I remind us all that giving and receiving are one in truth. And so, Holy Spirit, Jesus, Father, Mother, God, thank you so very much for bringing all of these beautiful, wonderful aspects of yourself, expressing in the fake illusory world, but really still home with you, together today in the light. Thank you for giving me the honor and privilege of being speaker today. Thank you for, we know that whenever two or more are gathered, there is love. Thank you for all of the love that you are, and that you give, and that you express through us. So it is. Amen. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
You rocked it, girl. That was awesome.
Thank you.
So good.
Thank you. So good. Loved what you said. Thank you. I love what you said, too. Thank you.